What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back in the video. It's Thursday, time to go game by game, talk about all the players I'll be starting and sitting this week. I do have a pretty gnarly sore throat, and I just recorded about half of this video, never clicked the record button, so I don't know if it'll make it through this one, but we're going to try our best to power through it. So, first up, tonight's game, Jets at Patriots, 43.5 point total, Patriots 12.5 point home favorites. For the Jets side, Garrett Wilson is hurt again, and they don't really have any backup wide receivers you trust. And so Fields normally has a very wide range of outcomes. With no Garrett Wilson, you kind of remove a lot of those top-end outcomes. So I don't really trust him this week. Probably shouldn't be playing him. Honestly, the only two Jets players you can trust are Breece Hall and Mason Taylor. Hall has a terrible matchup against a really good Patriots run defense. They're nearly 2 touchdown road underdogs, and they kind of refuse to throw to him this season, so he's forced to convert like his 2 or 3 dump offs into big games. You probably have to play Breece Hall, but he's really only a running back 2 this week. And then for Mason Taylor, I mean, if you were super desperate, maybe in like a tight end premium league, sure, but you probably have better options this week. Really, it's Breece Hall or nothing from the Jets this weekend, or I guess tonight. Then for the Patriots side, a lot more appealing, obviously, than the Jets side. They're implied to score 28 points. You can kind of attack the Jets however you want, especially after these trades. I would say Drake May is a must start. I would say Henderson probably is a must start. He's going to grade out as like a top 15 running back. If you have 3 other top 15 running backs, congratulations on your win. But, you know, he's a really strong player. You should probably be playing him this week. And then Diggs, also, I would say is like maybe not a must start, but a very strong start. They're using him a lot in the red zone. He's got a very high reception floor. He's the top target on this team. Booty's not playing this week. Like, you should probably be playing Stephon Diggs if you have him. And then Hunter Henry is what he always is. Like, he's not going to have a high-end target share, but he's going to have a good role in the red zone, a decent chance of scoring a touchdown. And so he's going to be among the streaming options at tight end with a decent chance of scoring. You could also throw a dart at Mac Hollins at wide receiver 3. He's going to be out there because he's good at run blocking. Again, Booty's not playing this week, so he's going to be their ex-wide receiver more often than Kyle Williams will. But I also don't know how much New England really needs to pass the ball. They're probably going to win by a decent amount. They can probably lean on the running backs at least a little bit and kind of like play slower and not throw the ball that much. So I don't know that most of you need to go to Mac Hollins, but you know, if you had to have a wide receiver in that like 30 to 35 range, he's not a bad option. The Sunday games will kick off in Spain this week, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific kickoff. International game this week will be Commanders at Dolphins, 47.5 point total. Dolphins 2.5 point home favorites. For the Commanders side, it does seem like they've shifted to using Chris Rodriguez as their lead back. I still fully expect a committee, though. Rodriguez has been outplaying JCM, and he is who they prefer to use at the goal line. So I think he's the guy you want in fantasy, but I'm not sure you can really project any of their running backs to be running back 2s because they could easily ride the hot hand, right? It could be that they plan on using Chris Rodriguez, but that JCM goes out there, rips off a few good runs, and they lean on him a little bit more. It's just really risky when you don't know who's going to have the hot hand in a 3 running back committee, when also 2 of those running backs that are more likely to have the hot hand will not be catching any passes. So I don't know that you want to play any of them, but if you were going to play one, it is Chris Rodriguez as like a very low-end running back 2. The matchup isn't bad. Washington also could get a lead in this one, could have a nice day. But it's maybe play Rodriguez, maybe lean on like Mariota if you're streaming instead of like if you had Jaden Daniels and you're streaming him. Maybe like Ertz as a mid to high end tight end 2. Debo's clearly playing through an injury, and so you can kind of put him in the flex spot. Hope he does something. But I'm not super pumped to play anyone on the Commander side. Then in the Dolphins, I mean, it's pretty easy. Just start Achane, start Waddle, probably bench everyone else. I am in one league where I have Jaden Daniels out. I have Daniel Jones on bye, and so I have to pick someone up, and I have to pick up Tua because I went for Mac Jones, and now it seems like Purdy is going to start. So I don't love it. I'm not excited to do that, but he's a decent streaming option this week just because he could easily throw a touchdown to Achane, throw a deep pass to Waddle, and kind of get there with like 250 and 2 touchdowns. You'll be happy with that. Dulcich is also technically viable in like tight end premium leagues, but for 99% of you, Achane, Waddle, no one else on this team. 1 o'clock games kick off with Chargers at Jaguars, 43.5 point total. Chargers are 3 point road favorites. For the Chargers, their offensive line's in shambles, but it's a good enough team that they can kind of like overcome that basically, right? You're hoping you don't turn it on and see them drop back and like 70% of the time just be faced with pressure, because it's really difficult for any offense, no matter how good your coach, no matter how good your players are, no matter how good everything is. If you are being pressured at a super high rate, you're just not going to sustain drives consistently in the NFL. But maybe that's not the case this weekend. They went back to featuring Vidal last week. Ladd has also clearly emerged as their number one option in the passing game. That should have been the case all season, not the Vidal one, the Ladd one there. But it's nice that they're finally like consistently using Ladd to a degree where we can trust him in fantasy. So start those two. We got a scare last week for Gadsden. It seems like he's okay. He is fully expected to play. It is a fantastic matchup for tight ends, and so I am rolling with Gadsden in my tight end spot again this week, unless we get word that he's limited. But to me, why would they play him? Like, if he's going to be limited and play like half the snaps, why would they make him active? Just sit him and get him healthy next week. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think, if he plays, just play him. Honestly, I think all of Herbert, Vidal, Ladd, Gadsden, put them in your starting lineup. They're probably going to be decent. Quentin is like a boom bust flex play. You're praying for a touchdown if you play him. Keenan Allen, more of a high floor wide receiver 3, but both those two have taken a step back now that Gadsden has emerged and now that Ladd is being used more consistently. So good game environment, and I'm expecting a few big games from the Chargers side, but I would stick to their core. I don't know how much you want Quentin or Keenan right now. On the Jaguars side, a lot comes down to injuries, right? Like, we just kind of don't know the injury situation right now. Obviously, Travis Hunter's done for the season, but will Brian Thomas Jr. return? Is Parker Washington healthy enough to play? We're going to learn a lot on the Friday practice report, seeing what happens there. I'll just adjust the rankings accordingly. I will say, if like one of Parker Washington or Brian Thomas Jr. is out there and the other is inactive, the one that's playing is going to be a pretty good play. If both are active, neither one is overly appealing. I probably wouldn't play Herbert or Lawrence. I wouldn't play the tight ends. Right now, the only one I'm projecting is like a good play is Travis Etienne, and he's a high-end running back too. I think you just play him if you got him. Chargers are a pretty strong matchup for running back efficiency. The spread's also close. The Jaguars could easily win this game. So best play there. Probably not playing a lot of their other players. I know that Parker Washington has a lot of fantasy points recently. I mean, are you going to count on multiple like return touchdowns? Probably not. Next up, we've got Bucs at Bills, 48.5 point total. Bills, 5.5 point home favorites. Usually, you would look at those two teams in this matchup and you'd say, holy cow, there's going to be 1 million points. It's a little too early to be like totally concerned with the weather, but it does seem like we're going to see like 40-degree weather. We're going to see pretty decent wind, and we're probably going to see rain as well. So check when it gets closer, but it's not ideal if you're looking for the passing attacks to ball out in this one. For the Bucs side, it's a bad spot, right? Not only do you have the weather, but you're playing in Buffalo just as a game environment. That's a difficult place to play. Buffalo also seems to do like a pretty good job of just limiting opponent plays, so that's also bad news. We also don't totally know. It seems like it's possible that Bucky and Godwin return, or neither of them return, right? It's at least the most likely this week as for any other week this season, but I don't think we're going to know until Friday or Saturday, so I'll adjust the rankings accordingly. If Bucky plays, play him, and don't play the other running backs. If he doesn't play, you're probably starting White as like a low-end running back too, but I'm not pumped to play Tucker or White if we have even if we have Bucky out. For the wide receivers, definitely play Igbukah, but if we get Godwin back, you're not going to like Tez Johnson as much. If we don't have Godwin back, Tez Johnson is decent in the flex spot. And then it also impacts Cade Otton, right? Cade Otton's really good when these guys are out, but if both Bucky and Godwin are back, you would not be starting Cade Otton because so much of that target share is going to shift over to those other two. So we will see what happens. I'll adjust the rankings accordingly, but I will say either way, I don't love Baker just because of the weather and the game environment, plus the defense on the other side. It is more likely Tampa Bay at least tries to lean a little bit run heavy. On the Bills side, we'll see if Kincaid can play. I don't think he's going to, but we will see. I think you're probably just starting Allen and Cook and probably benching everyone else. Like, you can stream Shakir in the flex spot. Ideally, it would be like the wide receiver 3 spot of a full PPR league. But again, This game looks like it's going to be a shootout when you look at the teams. When you combine the weather with the fact that both teams can very easily spread the ball out to a lot of different players, you kind of want to still just focus on the core for each team. Next up, we've got Bears at Vikings, 48.5 point total. Vikings 3-point home favorites. For the Bears, Swift resumed his role as the lead running back last week in his return, so I would trust him as kind of a mid-range running back too this week. Caleb Williams has also been running the ball really well. Caleb Johnson has not been running the ball well. Caleb Williams has, though, so that's helping, right? In some of these games where he hasn't been that good passing, if he can rip off like 40 yards and a touchdown on the ground, you don't need to do that much passing to pay off in fantasy. So he's a decent streaming option and that like quarterback 10 to 12 range. Obviously, you're scared of the Vikings because they have a very good defense, and so they're always live to confuse him, to force a couple interceptions, and to just make life miserable for him to where he can't really get going. So there's definitely a lower floor than normal for everyone on the Chicago side. Dunze bounced back nicely last week. He was very strange, 0 receptions, 0-yard dud in a game where they scored 47 points the week before. Projection-wise, none of these guys are going to really stand out against the Vikings defense. You just kind of have to know that. But I would say you're probably playing Caleb Williams if you have him. You're probably playing Swift and Dunze. Maybe just like temper expectations a little bit. But aside from that, you just don't trust these guys. Like you want to trust Loveland. You want to trust Monangai because you like him. But Monangai's only running back 3. Loveland is a fringe option, but like he played 61% of the snaps in commence return last week. If that's going to happen, you just cannot trust him as anything more than like a mid to low end 10-2. For the Vikings side, McCarthy has been really bad as a real life quarterback, but decent in fantasy thanks to his rushing. He has 8.5, 2.5, 7.2, and 4.8 rushing fantasy points in his 4 starts. So again, kind of like what Caleb Williams is doing, you don't need as much passing if you're going to get those numbers rushing. Somewhat of a scary spot against Chicago. So Chicago has forced the highest interception rate against them among any team in the NFL right now. But Vikings are home. The game's in a dome. They are favorites. And so as long as McCarthy doesn't completely fall apart, he should have a solid day in fantasy. I'm good if you want to play him as kind of like a, in that general quarterback 10 to 14 range. I'd also start Justin Jefferson every week as a wide receiver 1. Aaron Jones is a high-end running back 2. Addison is more of like a low-end wide receiver 2, someone I'd love to play at like wide receiver 3 if possible. The efficiency has been really bad, but you did have Jefferson and Addison have 12 and 11 targets last week, so there is clearly a ceiling there. You just need McCarthy to kind of figure himself out. Next up, we've got Packers at Giants, 43.5 point total. Packers 7-point road favorites. For the Packers, this is a great spot against a very bad Giants defense, but who do you trust, right? It's a great spot, but like Jacobs is an awesome play, right? Definitely play him as a top 5 running back this week. He balled out last week. He's off the injury report. Like he looks like he's good to go. He's going to be a smash rest of season. But then what? I mean, do you trust Jordan Love? Do you trust Romeo Doubs? Do you trust these ancillary wide receivers? Do you trust the backup tight ends? The answer is no. So basically all of that. Like you can play Doubs in the flex. If you had to stream Love, you can. But truly, even in a spot like this, they still have so many players they'll spread the ball around to, and you don't trust the backup tight ends at all, to where it's almost Jacobs or nothing from the Packers for me. Then the Giants side, it's a bad spot, obviously, as touchdown underdogs, even at home. It's a really good Packers defense. They do have Jameis Winston starting, which we love. Thing is, probably still wouldn't go out of my way to play any of these guys. Tracy Jr. is like my running back 27 to 30 sort of range. Singletary outside the top 35 running backs. Wandale around the wide receiver 20. So he's probably the best play, but he's also not the like style of wide receiver that Winston typically peppers. Winston loves to play aggressive, throw the ball downfield. That's more Slayton. So even though Wandale projects well, I could see a situation where Slayton gets more work, but then you don't trust Slayton. He's only the wide receiver 40. Theo right now, my tight end 11, but it's just difficult to trust any of these guys because we haven't seen the target shares with Winston at quarterback. And of course, this is a very good defense on the other side. So truly, like you can play Tracy Jr., you can play Wandale, you can play Theo. I just would do so with the understanding that there's a very wide range of outcomes. And one of those outcomes is that Winston struggles. that the Packers get the ball, they play really slow, they sustain long drives, and you just don't get the volume on the Giants side that we need to hit. Next up, we've got Texans at Titans, 37.5-point total. Texans are 7.5-point road favorites. For the Texans, Woody Marks might have taken over Nick Chubb as the lead back this week, but we thought that before, and then they went right back to giving Chubb a decent workload. So given the matchup, I think you can start Marks as kind of like a low-end running back too, and hopefully they use him as that lead running back this week, and then next week we can truly start him and like trust it, But we don't know that that's the case. And so that's why I'm saying like you can't fully trust Marks as a clear locked-in running back too. Overall, I think, again, you can probably play Marks. You're probably starting Nico as a wide receiver 1 every week. You can stream Dalton Schultz as like a low-end tight end 1. Aside from that, I probably wouldn't go to secondary players on Houston, even though they're pretty big-time favorites. This is a very bad game environment. It's unlikely that the Titans really push the Texans to score into the 30s like the Jaguars did last weekend, and I'm definitely not chasing the big Davis Mills game. So I really would just not chase that, not play the secondary wide receivers on Houston, stick to the studs. Hopefully, we watch the game and Noel takes over as that slot wide receiver. But for most of you, again, it's Woody, it's Nico, and it's Schultz. On the Titans side, it's nothing. Like truly, like you could just end it there. Like Ridley's going to be back this week, so truly bench everyone. The Texans have a top 3 defense. There's no way you can trust anyone on the Titans this weekend. Next up, we've got Panthers at Falcons, 42.5-point total. Falcons, 3.5-point home favorites. On the Panthers side, the Falcons are a strong matchup for running backs, but a really bad one for wide receivers and tight ends. This sets up like another great spot for Rico Dowdle, who should play really well as like a low-end running back 1 again this week. Behind Rico, it's really just Tet as a low-end wide receiver 2. He is clearly a superstar, but Bryce Young is just so bad that, it's really delaying the breakout for Tet McMillan. I'm not expecting a really big game from this weekend, but he should have like 4 or 5 receptions, 55 to 70 yards. Hopefully he can find the end zone. And so if you've got 3 top 20 wide receivers, it is totally fine to bench Tet, but he's my wide receiver 23 right now. I think he deserves to be ranked that high. On the Falcons side, it's pretty annoying that Algier is their goal line back, but Bijan is still a clear top 5 running back. Algier is really just a pray for a touchdown running back 3. The game script should be positive for the Falcons, but we thought that last time these two teams played, and the Panthers somehow won 30-0. So such is life for the Falcons. They do this to us all the time where they go into these spots and you're like, great spot, and then they score nothing, bad spot, and they score 30. But start Bijan, start London. I would say start Pitts as kind of like a low-end tight end 1, and probably bench everyone else. Mooney's been a huge disappointment this season. The man had 8 targets last week, turned into 1 catch. Final 1 o'clock game is going to be Bengals at Steelers, 48.5-point total. Steelers are 5.5-point home favorites. For the Bengals, Burrow is still a few weeks out, but they have a shot at winning the division, especially if they can pull off the win this week. So the Bengals are going all out this week. There's just no way I could bench any of them. You're starting Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, and T. Higgins in every league that you have them. Each of them has a massive ceiling, and I just really think you have to play them. Like the fact that if they win this game, they are live to win the division. I just think all these 3 are going to be featured to such a high degree that I could not fathom putting them on my bench. The one scenario where that's not the case is if Samaje Perine were to play, but especially if Perine's out, then Brown is a clear top 10 running back. Tough call with Flacco, but honestly, he's been scoring so many touchdowns, and so many of their touchdowns are through the air that I think you can play him as a high-end quarterback too. Then for the Steelers side, fantastic spot against an awful Bengals defense. Jalen Warren is a low-end running back 1. I mean, initial projections had him as like a top 5, but he'll be like a top 12 running back this week. Definitely play him. And you can play Metcalf as a low-end wide receiver too. I will note that the Bengals defense has graded out as a very tough matchup for opposing wide receivers. That's especially true for outside wide receivers and wide receiver 1s. So I wouldn't be shocked if Metcalf had another dud. I have him in my Dynasty League, though. I am still playing him just because you could still get a spot where Cincy gets up, they get a lead, and they just like Pittsburgh has to lean pass heavy. And in a game environment like that, it still possibly scores 2 touchdowns, possibly breaks off a long play. So even though it's actually a worse matchup than you think, I would still play him. And then Rodgers, he actually projects okay. I didn't expect it to happen. I did cross-reference my projections with other sources around the industry. I verified all the inputs. He's just going to project in that like quarterback 11 to 13 range this weekend. So if you are looking for a streaming option, it's not fragile. Like that projection is actually solid. He's going to project well this week. 4 o'clock games kick off with 49ers at Cardinals, 48.5 point total. 49ers are 3-point road favorites. For the 49ers, it seems like Pearsall is going to return this week. I'm still not 100% sure if Purdy will, but it seems like he's going to as well unless he suffers a setback. Regardless, start McCaffrey, start Kittle. Assuming that Pearsall is back, I think both wide receivers kind of grade out as flex plays. I probably wouldn't play Pearsall unless you really needed him, just because it would be nice to kind of see him come back, look healthy, not suffer setback, and then start him after that. We still don't know. Like he could go out there and run a route on like 50% of dropbacks, be utilized, but like it would probably be smart of them to not rush him back and to kind of put him out there and say, okay, play 50% of the snaps, don't suffer that setback, ramp up next week, and then be good to go on the snaps that you would normally have. So I probably wouldn't play him, but also decreases my interest in Juwan Jennings as well. But Purdy looks great. McCaffrey looks great. Kittle looks great. Hopefully next week we're just saying start all these guys and we can go back to like the 49ers and how we're used to viewing them. On the Cardinals side, Marv's going to be out after getting his appendix removed. Of all the things, like the crazy amount of things that just happened to Marv, why am I even surprised, right, that he has appendicitis? So he's not going to play this week, might not play next week either. That leaves them really thin at wide receiver because you also had Zay Jones suffering the Achilles injury last week. Obviously start Trey McBride. Michael Wilson can be used in deeper leagues to help you, get through a bye week. I have him with a pretty good target share, and he's still only the wide receiver 43. I'm a little worried that he's just not good enough to be a wide receiver 1, and that this offense kind of just like falls apart a little bit because they're so easy to defend. And if they also get down and San Fran's on the other side, just running the ball every play, we could see limited plays overall. So I'm not super excited. And then at running back, we don't really know yet because I don't know the status of Bam Knight. If he's able to play, it's probably just a committee, and you probably don't want any of them. I don't know that we want to trust any of these running backs really until Trey Benson returns, which should hopefully be soon, perhaps next week, but we'll see. I don't like anyone besides Trey McBride really on the Cardinals side. Next up, we've got Seahawks at Rams. Should be a great game. 48.5 point total. Rams 3-point home favorites. Seahawks side, it's a tough spot. Obviously, you're on the road against a very good Rams defense. It's also, though, a great game environment. So even though maybe efficiency is lower, this is a game where, like, if both offenses get going, which is not a guarantee because both defenses are great, but if one offense, I guess especially, starts to go off, the other one is good enough to play catch up there. So you can't really sit on a lead against either of these teams. JSN, auto start every week. I think Shaheed is flex viable. You'd like to probably see him have a good game or see him have a full snap share and a good amount of targets before starting him. But if you had to, he's flex viable. Other than that, though, like I probably don't want to stream Sam. He's fine to stream, but I don't love it. I don't trust the tight ends. And the running backs, realistically, like Walker right now is my running back 29. Sharps is my running back 33. They're intent on running a committee there. I don't think we'll see Alani this week as much because I don't think it's going to be any sort of blowout. But you're probably going to have Sharps, Vulture, and goal line work, and you're probably going to have Ken Walker working between 20s. And so both of them are just very, very low-end running back 2s where you're praying one of them scores a touchdown. And that one's probably Sharps. But again, even if he scores a touchdown, it might be like 10 carries for 25 yards and a score. And then Walker basically does the same thing in total volume through yardage. For the Rams side, Corbin's been mixing in a lot more recently, but it's tough to know how much of that is because they wanted to mix in more and how much of that is blowouts. Like, yes, they're alternating drives, but it's pretty easy to alternate drives when you're up 21-0 to start the second quarter, right? They've won their last 4 games by 14, 28, 24, and 16 points. And so we can't exactly look at what's happened and been like, that's definitely going to happen in a trailing script or in a tied script or in a barely leading script, right? I'm still viewing Kyren as a running back 2, Puka Adams as must starts at wide receiver. And then Stafford is a great play at quarterback. The man has 13 passing touchdowns over the last 3 weeks. So, truly, I don't even care what the matchup is at this point. Just keep playing Matthew Stafford. Next up, we've got Chiefs at Broncos, 44.5 point total. Chiefs, 3.5 point road favorites. For the Chiefs, I don't think Pacheco's going to play again this week, but confirm that. If he is out, fire up Kareem Hunt again as a low-end running back too. You're probably going to need a touchdown from Kareem Hunt for him to be worth starting, but they do lean on him when they get close, so he's one of the more likely players on the team to score a touchdown. You never like playing players at Denver, but Kansas City is coming off bye, and they're 5-4. They are 2.5 games back of Denver for the lead in the division. This is a playoff game for Kansas City, because if you lose and you go to 5-5 and you are 3.5 games back for Denver in first place, and the Chargers could pretty easily go to 8-3 this week, you could be in a very, very bad spot after this week. So because of that, because this is basically a playoff game for this team, start Mahomes, start Hunt, start Rice, start Worthy, start Kelsey. I know probably one of them is going to dud, but expect to see a locked-in Kansas City offense. Expect to see them put their foot on the gas and score a ton of points. I think you have to be playing all those guys. On the Denver side, it's a lot less appealing. The big question mark is what happens losing Dobbins on this offense. I don't think it's guaranteed, but it's pretty much guaranteed he's not going to play this week. He's been by far their best early down running back. And so does Sean Payton trust Harvey? Does he lean on him? Or does he just say, Bo Nix, you're dropping back 45 times. We're trying to win this game through the air. My guess is that they actually do lean very pass heavy. And while that's a good thing for Nix and the pass catchers in fantasy, it introduces a lot of variance to this game. I don't know how successful that will be, right? If they do drop back a ton and they become one-dimensional, there's a situation here where they're just super inefficient. Casey just absolutely destroys them and they can't do anything, and all these guys are bad in fantasy. Now, I don't think that's the most likely outcome, but it's an outcome that does exist. And so even though it's possible to drop back that many times, you could have them drop back 45 times and Bo Nix score 10 fantasy points. That is possible. What's also possible, though, is that we see a lot of volume flow to Sutton, to Franklin, and even through to Harvey in the receiving game. So I think you can play all these guys. I just don't love the spot. It is not a high confidence spot for me. I am playing Harvey in any league that I have him, because even if they lean pass heavy, I also don't think Sean Payton is going to go 100% pass, and I don't think he trusts any of the other running backs on early down. So I still think Harvey has a fairly locked in floor and obviously a great ceiling, because even with Dobbins there, they liked him in the red zone. But I wish I could be more helpful on the Denver side. I just think there's so many ways this game could play out, and some of them are very bad for Denver. Final 4 o'clock game is going to be Ravens at Browns, 39.5 point total, low total here. Ravens, 7.5 point road favorites. This is the second bad weather spot of the week. So remember, Tampa Bay at Buffalo looks rough. This game looks even worse. I don't know if it's going to rain, but the wind looks absolutely brutal. You should not be expecting good passing numbers from either side in the spot. For the Ravens, I would expect a very run-heavy approach in this game, a lot of quick passing when they do drop back, and then scrambles beyond that. I would just not expect anyone to really hit deep in this spot. You are starting Lamar. You are starting Derrick Henry in every single matchup. I think that Zay Flowers can still be used as a low-end wide receiver too, just because when they drop back, they're probably going to design a lot of screen passes for him. So even though he won't hit deep, he doesn't normally get a ton of his value that way. It's usually when he has these good games, he's hitting on a lot of screen passes, but it's, again, not a good spot for him. And I'm not pumped to start any of their tight ends. Any of them could score a touchdown. Mark Andrews, as we've been saying, is more likely to score that touchdown. If you wanted to go to one of the tight ends, you can. It's not really a spot where I'd expect a great game from any of them. Browns side, I know Baltimore has a bad defense, but if the weather's a huge concern, if play volume's a big concern going up against Baltimore, if you have to lean on Dylan Gabriel, how much do you really want to play Baltimore or Cleveland players? So I think you start Judkins as a low-end running back too. I think you can play Fannin as a streaming tight end. For the most part, I really just would not want to be playing Cleveland players this week. Sunday night game is going to be Lions at Eagles, 46.5 point total. Eagles are 2.5 point home favorites, which is surprising to me. I don't know. Lions, Dan Campbell took over play calling last week, and there were two big changes. One, he made sure to get J-Mo the ball. Two, he kind of split the usage for Gibbs and Monty. Both seem sticky because they're both players that he loves. Like, he loves Jameson Williams. He loves David Montgomery. And so the fact that he schemed usage towards J-Mo and made sure it was a 50-50 split for Monty and Gibbs out there just seems like he's just given the ball to two players that he loves. It makes Gibbs a worse play, but like he goes from probably like the third best play to like the fourth or fifth best play. Like, you're still playing him. Amon-Ra technically makes him worse, but like, again, maybe goes from third to fifth best play. So definitely play those two. But it gives you more confidence in being able to flex J-Mo and being able to put Monty at running back 2. Overall, I think you just kind of play the studs in Detroit. I don't love Goff this week, but you could play everyone if you wanted to on Detroit, like basically every week. Then on the Eagles side, pretty much the same as always. Start their studs, bench everyone else. Detroit should put up points. Hopefully, Detroit gets an early lead and it forces Philly to kind of be more aggressive, to actually like try on offense. I don't know what the heck is wrong with this team, but every single one of their skill players, including A.J. Brown, still come to the ceiling that you just kind of can't bench. A.J. Brown is, I would say, probably been the most annoying player in all of fantasy this season, and it genuinely seems like he just doesn't want to be playing out there. But I don't see how Philly keeps pace with Detroit without him doing something, so I don't like it, but in the one league I have him, I will be starting him. Final game of the week will be Monday Night Football. We'll see Cowboys at Raiders, 50.5 point total. Cowboys, 3.5 point road favorites. For the Cowboys, it's a great spot against a very mediocre Raiders team. They're also coming off bye, and while they're on the road, it's a dome game, right? I don't know why Dallas has an inability to play on the road outdoors, but they can play in a dome. I do expect Dallas to look really good on offense this week. I would absolutely be playing all their studs. So start Dak, start Devontae, start Lamb, start Pickens, and I think start Ferguson. Ferguson's not as good of a play since Lamb came back, but even factoring that in, right now he's my tight end 8, unless you have another really strong option. Like, I would probably play Gadsden over him, but if you don't have another strong option, just play Ferguson. Then on the Raiders side, I don't expect the Cowboys defense to be as bad as they have been leading up to this week, but I also don't expect them to be an amazing defense. Obviously, play Genty, play Bowers. I think Trey Tucker can be used in the flex spot as well. Right now, he's grading out as my wide receiver 25 since he's out there every snap. Dallas has been torched by wide receivers all season, and the Raiders are probably going to find themselves in a trailing game script. It's Trey Tucker, so we could easily have one catch for 4 yards, but if you needed someone to step up and you had Trey Tucker and some other scrub, there's still upside for Trey Tucker this weekend. So, thank goodness we are done. I can rest my voice a little bit now. Please check the updated rankings later in the week, either on my website or on my app. And then please subscribe to the channel if you're new here, either on Spotify or on YouTube. That'll do it for this one, though. And thank you all for watching.